We were just talking about questions and answers, and you answered a question of mine which had to do with whether or not everything is Buddha nature and is expressing Buddha nature already. Your answer was, of course it is, but does that help you? And
or how? And in what way does that help you? See?
yeah.
To know about, how does to know about help you? Mm-hmm. Is to know about practice? Is to know about equal to realization? Or mere recognition, or just awareness of it? To know about the planets, does that help you? To know about the masters, does that help you? And in what way? It's like knowing about Santa Claus. Does it help to know about Santa Claus? Right? Or the boogeyman? So it depends on what your connection is with what you know about and what it means to you, and how you resonate with that for better or for worse, or for neither.
You've used the phrase, or you've offered the advice, don't believe it, many times to me, as regards
believe that.
knowing anything.
Believe that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Believe not to believe. In other words, like knowing not to know. Hearing not to hear. Seeing not to see. It's good practice. But what does it mean? And then for who?
Yeah. So, I mean, it seems like there's a progression for everybody. And it's a different type of progression here. You've used the term vertical and horizontal. And it also seems like relative to the concepts that we talk about, and beyond the concepts, relative to what I actually experience as my changing reality because of this connection,
It's originally a musical connection, which over the years has become more spiritual connection. Because this music is all about the spiritual. And so it's all about the musical because of that. And we're talking then about the basis, which is not culture, but perception or resonance with sound vibration. Audible and inaudible perception, recognition of sound vibration.
Yeah, which is distinctly different in my experience than the victorious feeling of knowing something, of having the answer to the question.
For most, any answer will do. They don't want the realization. They want an answer. See? They want to have something put in a pocket.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost as though the question and answer process is like a sexual, like
for you.
One needs the other.
For you. Maybe sexual for you. But I mean, it is more like the sun and the earth. Yeah. So there's no ooh and ah in it. It's just light on the planet. So refreshing the planet, nourishing the planet, sustaining it. And it's a constant, so it would be a problem if the sun pulled out and left the earth alone. Yeah. So this is constant. Mhm. And it reflects more the fact of the continuum of the teachings in the Dharma. See, the realization of what I call native common sense. Mhm. The realization of native common sense. Mm. Mhm. What it is doesn't require anyone's presence or absence. Mm. 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 And the sooner the individual, the practitioner, gets that, and they rest in the understanding of that, such would be considered good practice. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For the moment, no questions, no answers. No answers, no question. Mm-hmm. But that's not what it is. What that creates is a more or less relatively quiet atmosphere for recovery, de-stressing, relaxing, and maybe opening to intelligence that is dependent upon relaxation for its access, for its perception, and for its use. See? In terms of things that could be categorized as subtle. See? Not quite yet in the domain of silence, but close. Peaceful. Okay. More or less at rest, but not equal to cessation. Not quite nirvana yet. Nirvana then would be within seeing distance, but maybe not within walking distance.
And is the difference momentum?
Whose?
The difference between rest and nirvana?
Momentum?
Mm-hmm.
Thoughtlessness. Any thoughtlessness out there?
Seems to be everywhere but right here.
So, what it is not a thing. What it is not a thought. Under the right conditions, talking doesn't impede it or obstruct it. Like the teachings that follow the realization of the masters. They're not other than the experience of the masters. They are not exactly like the experience or the realization, but they serve that. By, in some way, intellectually perhaps, aligning the person so that they can have an intuition of what it is. So the teachings are the setup. Link to the realization of realization. Similarly, but differently, the music reflects the realization. If you can get beyond your culturing relative to music, which is more about what you are about, the individual is about, than, let's say, the soul level of intelligence, which knows beyond all culturing and knowing. The soul as buddhi. Bodhicitta. And no bodhicitta. The question of teacher-student relationships is not limited to having company. It's not about having somebody to have. Someone to look over you, necessarily, or look into you, necessarily, or look through you. It's certainly not about power, differences. Nothing to do with that. It's not about the ego, no more than it's a question of ego relative to the grass you walk on, or the ground you walk on. You don't even think about it. There's no ego that's required to help you move from one location to the other. The real function of this arrangement is the establishment of correct resonance. In that, no words need to be exchanged. It's nice when they are. For clarificational purposes, it's needed. That's the being open that makes the student feel the presence. Not the shtick of the Guru, feels the presence. The spirit of the Guru. Not the trip, not the rap, the reality of what it is. Guru presence is instructional. It's liberational. If you have the right resonance. You don't have to be in the same room. You can be on different continents, different planets, different universes. Right resonance? Voila. Right resonance transcends teaching function. Because it's already present, already real, and needs to be understood as that which is realized. And in that realization, right at the heart of that realization is what is called nirvanic bliss. Zero heart space.
From a glimpse of zero heart space, or a Satori moment, or however it's called, it seems like there is then I don't know, reintegration moment. So, self comes back, or does it?
You know if self comes back, you talk about it.
Yeah.
It uses you. He talks through you, for you. And that always, in the highest way, representing your purpose, your nature, or your meaning. Therefore, moments of clearance are very precious. In order to behold the truth, reality of what it is to be no one and nothing and still be being. Without a beat, skipping a beat. Yeah. Without missing the beat. In other words, despite your heart and your brain, your being. Not just despite yourself, despite your being, being.
You mentioned in the last video near-death experiences, and at a certain point one may go so far outside or beyond themselves as to not be able to come back.
Happens in sleep. There are just as many dangers in sleep relative to the astral and causal planes of existence as there is in the physical world, where you have to watch every step. You don't know when the ground is going to give way or something's going to fall on you or collide with you. You have to be open, receptive, and in a way protecting yourself.
So is this training for that as well?
Of course. When you stop, then look and listen. You're doing that not merely to clear the past of karma and be in the peace of karma in the present, but you're also doing it to recreate already existing future karma, which is unacceptable. Already created for when you were less aware and thus less useful to you as you move forward. So you need to refresh that. That's what practice is about. That is a conscious strategy. It just happens when you are practicing correctly. The hue is used to push the atoms. And work with the breath, the life force, say, to push the atoms. If you push the atoms, and they're coming from a good place, let's say in the heart level of consciousness, from there, or from what you consider to be your grace core, the heart center of grace, love, compassion, say beauty, say, majestic presence, noble reality. Then with every breath, you're purifying where you are, what's in your midst. But it can't just be 1 second of, let's say, focus, and then the rest is garbage input, influx. So you have to be with it. And just doing it as a strategy or a certain kind of ritual or routine, so you can say, oh, I did that, so everything's cool. I just did 2 seconds of something. It's all cool. Not true. You have millions and millions of very profound and very benign beings meditating. Try and keep the field of the earth somewhat workable. It may take trillions of such beings to handle the darkness that could be acknowledged existing in terms of the pain and suffering created these days by ignorant beings. Well-intentioned, very ignorant beings. So there has to be a way of life, as it's called, to make some difference, or a very high degree of intelligence, to, in a snap, shift from one level to another level of consciousness.
What you were just talking about relative to meditating to keep the earth in a certain balance.
Keep your head, keep your body, forget about the earth, keep you in a certain kind of position of functionality on the earth plane where it's needed. It's not about the heavens. You have to bring the heaven into your life. This is like the opposite of some of the Christian ideas. Oh, we're going to go to heaven. No, heaven's here. You haven't tuned into it. It's here. It's present. But ignored, let's say. Denied and defied for human reasons. See, mostly about distraction. I don't have time for that. But the religious people do that. I'm not religious.
Yeah.
Right? I'm materialistic. Well, whatever it is. It's what you're open to, which determines what you be. And if you're unhappy and don't know it, there it is. There's nothing to change. If there's nothing to change, you are stuck where you are. Not good news. Yeah. It's like saying there's nothing higher than your vibratory rate in any moment. You can't be any more, let's say, elevated in vibration. That's not true. But if you're that materialized and stuck in it, good for you. Enjoy it. But that also is not true. That will pass. But you don't finish here. Your death experience will shock you into recognizing. It is a lesson in itself. A masterful lesson of severance without choice. Gotta go when you gotta go. And you're going. Sooner or later. Whether you like it or not. You've already signed on for your ride. And we have to say good luck. Wayfarer. So it is wiser to consider who and where you are in the present and what you are creating for yourself by knowing what you are actually doing with yourself. For yourself, so to speak, or for others. As in both cases, it amounts to the same thing. What you do or don't do, you do for others. Your others, your people, who you may be dragging down to your level, which is more generally the case. Or, if you can do it, raise them up, which could be the case.
Can you speak on duty or obligation?
Regarding what?
Does it exist?
The universe is obligation.
To whom are we obliged?
Well, to whoever you are, to whomever you're obliged to. That's something you know for yourself. Now, in what way you meet those obligations depends on whether or not you're intelligent. To know who you are and in what way, specifically, you need to be obligated to such a person and for how long. That takes intelligence. And not just seeing somebody around and then you feel obligated to that for the rest of your life, like a lot of married couples do, and they do it ignorantly. They don't know when the time is done. See, they don't know. See? That the game is over. They don't know that. It was over years ago, but you can't let go, so you can't grow. See? So you need to be vigilant and follow the signs of when something's gone and when something's here. And then determine what, in fact, your obligation is to that, if any. This is not limited to humans. It also includes pets, animals, and other beings. If you have sensitivity. If you have no sensitivity, you're dead in the water. You don't know. You can't know, right? That's what people say. I don't know that. I've never seen that before. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You have no idea of it. And it may be the most existing thing in your whole life, but you can't see it because you refuse to. Your ego's too big, see, and thick. And you have too much fear and insecurity in place to be able to see anything. See? Burnt away, it all becomes obvious that we are in the universe. And we are vulnerable to the universe. And for babies, maybe it's better to stay in the bassinet and be put to sleep by your mommy or by your daddy. Right? For many, obligation is just a trap. It's like relationship. It's like familiarity, society, self-other. These are all traps. Every stinking thing is a trap, which should be offered as wood for the fire of liberation. Not escape from responsibilities. No. When you are practicing, you know exactly what to do, with whom and to what measure. And there's no question, no doubt, because there's no ego involved. When you have the heart courage to say, this is over. It's time to move now. So I'm moving. But we are not disconnecting, I'm just moving. The wind blows, now I must set sail. But it's not like anywhere to nowhere. No, it's like clear. I know where I'm going. I have direction. That's all part of the real responsibility in terms of movement. Yeah? Because it's part of a logic that's very clear once you're paying attention to it. Yeah? There's no question about it when you see it for what it is. 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. So it is. Okay. The good news, you were born to suffer. The bad news is that it's completely unnecessary.
Yeah, I mean, perceiving ego and the impediment that it is, you know, as clearly as I do now, like right now, this moment, it's you know, it's quite frustrating because as part of this perception, I understand what it's in the way of, or what it is impeding in terms of, you know, joy and capacity and radiance.
Potential.
Yeah.
It's just potential. It's talked about like a fantasy, some kind of myth, right? No, it's not a myth. It's not fantasy. It's in direct proportion to what you're willing to let go that you suffer holding on to. Unnecessarily. There's some holding ons to that are necessary, but not all.
Is all holding painful? Is all holding on painful?
No. Some of it's necessary. So this is part of the discretion. This is part of your intelligence programming in terms of whether or not you are programmed to help yourself or destroy yourself or impede yourself. Hold yourself back. So you want to make sure you're not holding yourself back. See? Because you're with others who like holding themselves back. And don't know anything else to do than that. Out of fear and insecurity. Your obligations and your debts are just karma. You put there, you create, you sign off on. You have to put to rest. You have to settle it. Settle the scores with your karma, your family karma, your social karma, your romantic karma, your sexual karma, your intellectual karma, your musical karma, your work karma, see? Your gender karma, see? Your creative karma and your practice karma. All of these could be seen as obligations of some sort. Paying bills karma, see? Economic karma, work karma, service karma. Each one could be a separate stream, see? A river of karma. We have many rivers of karmas, see? And we take on even more when we meet people who are looking for places to dump their karma, like in your head, in your ears, and in your body. Not intentionally, but consequently, inevitably. Sharing is the exchanging or the dumping and maybe eliminating in some ways of certain types of karma. Conversations can reinforce or dissolve certain kinds of karma. And that's why the Dharma is a good conversation about letting oneself consider what it is to be liberated from neuroses. Consider it. And is there a level where there's no neuroses? Of course there is. Is there a level when you go into deep sleep and you don't have a clue as to what's going on? Of course there is. So we have more levels in us as our potential as human spirits than others would have you believe. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It seems like as humans we allow ourselves to get away with a lot of stuff that we know maybe isn't quite right or that we have a hint of.
Your programming is vast as human. Most of it is garbage. Self-serving, but far beneath the spiritual and the creative. So there's no wonder that there is unhappiness and confusion and profound psychoneurosis spread out around the world. See? No wonder whatsoever. See? Obvious. But you're not getting away with it because you're suffering it at the same time. So you don't really get away with it. You're in darkness as a result, so there's no escape from that. Your neurosis creates its own darkness and you have to pay for it. So you imagine you're getting away with your stuff, as maybe most people you know, and you may be. But the nature of this particular programming is that it is the limitation. It is the darkness. The perception of getting away with anything is the same darkness. Disregarding karma and its precision, its purpose, its function, its message, and its justice.
So to get away with something is distinctly different than to get away from something.
Really the same thing.
How about to get away from self?
It's a theory. Right? You can't get away from really what you're being and what you're willing to be, except in imagination. Yeah.
So if it's not getting away from, what is this process? This process, if not getting away from,
it's reinforcing what it is, what the karma is, which you can think in terms of getting away from or going towards. Same thing. No difference. When you stop, it doesn't exist. As long as you're dancing in that spin, it exists. And you are what exists, and you're making it exist. No, we can say that when you stop, maybe it's still going on. And it could be said, well, that's understood. But then you have to perceive what else there is to stop or move beyond. And let go of. It's really about letting go. See? What preoccupies you, what occupies you in any mental, emotional, or physical sense. Right? Or memory. Image.
my experience of here and my, I don't know whether you would call it an understanding of, you and your function, because it's more based on experience than understanding.
Both.
Yeah, not to exclude one, is that this resonance, what you're living, is a sort of radical form of potential and of insight, and it's it seems like you're able to engage people on a lot of levels, but particularly philosophically and musically, at a very, very high level. I mean, you've dealt with both in some of the more extreme ways that one can deal with them.
True.
Going through, the jazz scene in the 60s, 70s, 80s with like Coltrane's band, meeting the Karmapa and dealing with all of these religions, Buddhism, Hinduism, Zen, Ek masters.
Hindu masters, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it is remarkable that that this resonance can speak for itself so thoroughly as within the contexts of music and of philosophy or dharma, or however you want to frame it.
Well, it's really all for you. See, it's for others. That's the beauty of it. It manifests as a form of service and grace, see, for the enlightenment of other people. See. It's not about itself as a self or any of that, but it's really to be able to see that there's more to our purpose than just suffering. See. There's extreme creativity in each of us. See. It has to be tapped. And part of your process is to tap it here, because this is just a moment, then it's gone. But you have your life to live, and you have to make sure you're tapping into your creative. Okay? Hopefully, with a better handle on your flows in terms of people and social influences, so that you balance that to make that work for you. Whether you go to a more extreme end of the spectrum for your nourishment or not. Okay? It's up to you. And yogis are extreme people. Now, they don't mean to be extreme, but it's their nature to handle certain things that are, let's say, conventionally known as extreme. When not to those who are doing it, it's not extreme at all. It's then natural. See?
I've learned a lot in terms of good data, as you put it.
Correct data.
I've heard a lot of music, and I've learned to hear music in a new way, in a more basic, more maybe native or correct, true
egoless way.
Egoless is maybe the best way to describe it. And it is kind of amazing that those were my two life questions. It seems like music. My dad was a musician. I studied music through every school system elementary school, middle school, high school, college, graduate school, and at a certain point, Dharma and the world's teachings became very important, and I mean, it seems like here both can in a certain way conclude and simplify to the point where they're not in and of themselves the point, where it is just openness, just heart. I mean, there are so many words. Simplicity and directness within a beautiful absence of thought, distracting thought, distracting sound, distracting vision.
You're sensing silence, right? The presence of silence. See, of that is what you speak.
Yeah. And you described it as the center of all knowing, or something like that. And I'm so grateful to feel like I know what that means.
The center of all sound.
Yeah.
Is silence.
Yeah.
The center of all life is silence. See? Center of all truth is silence. See?
Yeah.
The center of the universe is silence. The center of God is silence.